Welcome back, guys. In the last video we talked about that when living standards increase, the population grows. However, in the core econ there is no graphs which explain the living standard and population concept. However, you guys will be given this graph and you will be explained in your course, and you will also be tested in your exam or quiz. And they will ask you to explain the concept by using these graphs of the population and living standards. However, I want you guys to know that if the question is really, if they ask you about production function, then you have to talk about and draw that graph which I taught a few videos earlier, and there was a production function formed and you have to explain in terms of the average productivity of labor and then go towards the living standards by using that concept. However, now we are talking about how the living standards are affected by the growth of and how population is increased and what are the actually consequences. So basically, first of all, these two graphs are interrelated, and you can see they are always drawn in a way that they are vertical to each other, because on the x-axis the same thing is used, income, and if the same thing on the axis is used, so it means that we can connect them vertically, because the x-axis explains the same. If the income here is same, the income here should also be same, and such should the case here. For this whole x-axis, the incomes are same. So basically, if you look at the first graph, it's the graph of the death rate, birth rate comparison with income. Now first come towards birth rate. Now let's guess what should be its relationship with income. Well, if you don't need to think hard, actually you just need to understand the concept that when incomes rise, people will actually be in a much better position, and they will want more children because they will be able to bear more children because they have more income. So basically we can say that income and birth rate have a direct proportional relationship with each other. And another thing to remember is that it is the Malthusian economics, which was the time few centuries ago. It's not about these days when people are also very conscious about birth rate and all these things. At that time people just were did not think about these things and were more about there is increase in income, then the number of children might also increase. So this is the relationship between birth rate and death rate. If you think that if there is more income, there will be less deaths compared relatively, and if there is less income and there is stagnation, people will die because of it. So basically, when there is less income, people are not able to feed themselves, so the deaths will increase. So they have an inversely proportional relationship. However, they will intersect at a point which will cause an equilibrium, and that will be an equilibrium for subsistence income, and that is where the income would be. And interestingly, at this point of income, on the there is another graph which explains that the concept of population and income. And if you look, it's an inversely proportional graph, and because whenever income increases, population, so basically the concept is that whenever the population actually has increased, then the relative incomes have fallen. And this concept actually as we can say, this line is produced by the concept of these two lines, and we will be able to find the subsistence population through this graph. So now we just have increased the birth schedule, or we say the birth rate has increased. Birth rate has increased. So what actually happens that this birth rate increase causes a shift from B0 to B1 in this. So first equilibrium was this one, E0, this point, and then the new is E1. So the birth rate increase means that what you guys can also guess that there is a new equilibrium, and this what actually happens is that this line remains the same because there is no change in the living standards. And if you guys remember, the living standards only rise in the short run by the increase in technology. There is no increase in technology, only the birth rates have risen. So basically you just have to make a dotted line from here and check what actually happens. There actually the population rises from N0 to N1, but the income falls. So basically we are back to where we were, and that is that population and income have a negative effect on each other when there is increase in birth rate or death rate. If the death rate also increases or decreases, the effect will be inverse to each other, because if population rises, the income of the people will fall. As you guys can see in this example, there is an increase in technology. There is a technology, or we can say innovation, in the short run, and this is explained. Now you can see that the birth rate and death rate are not affected. So this time there will be no effect on the first graph. So before we studied that birth rate increase or death rate increase, the effect would be on the first graph, but now increasing technology means that living standards actually increase. So basically there would be a shift in this curve, which would show that on the same population the income has increased. So, and this is shown by this. This is the same population N dash, and the income has increased because of increasing technology. So we move from this point to this point. So this point means that now if we may go here, it means that we are in a disequilibrium. The birth rate is more than the death rate, and this cannot happen. This means that if birth rate is more than death rate, that means that the population would rise, and the population would rise. However, there will time will come slowly will move towards the equilibrium point, because population is to be controlled as the incomes will fall slowly and gradually, because birth rates are more than death rate means exactly that the incomes will fall because the population will rise. So we will slowly move towards up this point, and when we make dotted line from here and check, actually we go back to the same income. So income does not change, the same income, however the population has risen from N dash to N1, but the income has remained the same. So it brings the same concept that income remains the same, however the population rises, so the living standards remain the same with the increase in technology. I'm ending my video here, and I hope you guys understood it. It's a very important graph. You guys need to practice on them.